Good morning, YouTube. It's hard to overstate the significance of the RAV4 to Toyota, since it has not only passed up the Camry sales-wise, but it has become the best-selling vehicle in the US outside of the three American pickup trucks. But Toyota thinks they can do even better now that they are introducing the all-new and very competitive 2019 RAV4. Of course, we do want to give a special thanks and shout out to our friends at Toyota on Nicholasville for providing us with this fully loaded RAV4 Limited. And if you're in the market for any new Toyota, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them on their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with all that said, let's go ahead and see if the all-new RAV4 will gain even more ground over its rivals. So starting out with the exterior design, this is such a big shift from the outgoing RAV4. Where that model was kind of soft and rounded, this 2019 introduces a muscular and aggressive stance. The grille itself is basically 3 different layers, and while the center part's texture stays the same across the trims, the Limited does use a special metallic gray finish instead of the plain black on the other trims. Additionally, Limited adds the silver accent on the bumper. Now turning our attention to the headlights, the RAV4 joins several other Toyotas in giving you standard full LED headlights. Both the low and high beams are LED, and the only thing that changes between the trims is a black bezel on the LE. And then finally, there are fog lights on all but the base model. Moving to the side, it continues its rugged look, with squared off wheel arches trimmed in black. And it looks more imposing because it actually rides significantly higher, with 8.6 inches of ground clearance instead of the old 6.1. Around back, there is more black trim on the bumper, but our Limited adds in some luxury touches like the gray piece above the dual exhaust and the chrome that connects the taillights. As far as the taillights themselves, they remind me strongly of Lexus since they have a 3D look with black accents. And while we're back here, the tow rating remains at 1,500 pounds. That is until the Adventure trim comes out with a rating of 3,500 pounds. But overall, Toyota has done an excellent job with this exterior. It's got more of a macho look than most of the rivals, but at the same time, they didn't overdo it and ruin the classiness. Now the wheels also play an important role in the design. These are the biggest ones available, 19-inch alloys with the super chrome finish, standard on Limited and XLE Premium. Dropping down a rung to XLE will get you 17-inch alloys, and then the base LE will have 17-inch steel wheels with hubcaps. Coming up to the mirrors, they are finished in black on the LE only, and all the other trims also nicely include heating and blind spot monitoring. Now as far as all the rest of the safety systems, Toyota continues to be a leader here by giving you Safety Sense 2.0 as standard equipment on all grades. So just like the last gen, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, and auto high beam headlights are all standard. And since this is version 2.0, for 2019 you now have better pedestrian detection, lane tracing assist, and road sign assist. None of the rivals give you this much stuff as standard equipment. For the last thing, we'll take a look at the fuel tank. It is 14.5 gallons, so without getting into every possible combination, the most efficient front-wheel drive models can achieve 435 miles of range. And of course, it does use regular unleaded fuel. Well anyways, that's everything for the brand new exterior. So now let's see if the cabin has taken just as big of a leap forward. So for the new RAV4, you're actually going to find the Toyota Smart Entry system on all but the very base LE trim. And as you can see, it does have a nice key fob with special RAV4 branding. Now to get inside the vehicle itself, all you have to do is grab behind the door handle since there is a sensor. Alrighty, so looking inside the all-new RAV4 Limited, as you can tell, it's a really big change from the old generation. So as far as the different color schemes and materials you can get, it's pretty simple to follow. You've got 3 colors across all of the trims. It's going to be black, gray, or nutmeg. And then on your LE and XLE, the seating is going to be cloth. And then on the Limited and XLE Premium, you're going to get this soft text faux leatherette. And then turning over here to your door trim, it is very nice. You've got a leather trim over every part of it you could touch, as well as some stitching across the top. Surprisingly, you will find all 4 of your windows are one-touch automatic up and down. And then here on the Limited, you'll find 2-person memory seating. Turning over here to the seat, these are 8-way power adjusting with 2-way lumbar, and that's standard on your XLE Premium and Limited. Otherwise, you're going to get a 6-way manual seat. Now, like I was mentioning just a second ago, this is a synthetic leather. However, it does feel very soft and have a very attractive stitching design. So the cabin of the all-new RAV4 makes a really good first impression. And like I said, it is very different from the outgoing model, including in the material quality. So on this new RAV4, all of your materials, even on the upper dash, are soft touch. And then down here, you do have a leatherette texture with some more stitching. Dropping down lower, the materials are hard touch, but everything really feels solid and well put together. And then to start the vehicle, on all but the LE, just press the button to start. When we power up the electronics, here on the Limited you're going to find this 8-inch display. However, the standard screen on all the other trims is a smaller 7-inch display. Now, in addition to the bigger central display, here on the Limited you're also going to find the 7-inch digital gauges. Now on the other models you're going to have a smaller 4.2-inch display, but on here, as you can see, the speedo is digitally rendered, and then in the middle you can customize and reconfigure the way this is set up. And it's got all of your different systems that you expect, including for different power settings for all the various standard safety systems that this vehicle has. Now moving back to the steering wheel itself, it is electric power assisted, and you will find leather wrapping on all the models with leather seating. Now as far as your buttons, this is your standard affair of Toyota buttons. So these buttons are concerning your multifunction display as well as your phone and audio. And then over here you got controls for your adaptive cruise control, safety systems, and more audio controls. Now on this particular tester, we do not have rain sensing wipers. However, they are available via the weather package on XLE and up. The steering wheel itself is manually tilt and telescoping, and again, it is heated if you choose that weather package. Alright, so moving on to what may be one of the most important parts of a compact crossover, let's talk about the storage. Now RAV4 may actually be the best in the class, so starting out with your center console, this is significantly larger than last year. As you can see, very wide, very deep, and you do have a nice felt lining at the bottom. Additionally, this is also where you'll find 2 of your dedicated charging USB ports. Up in front of that, you've got 2 generously sized cup holders, and then another massive place to store things right here. And you can also option for a Qi wireless charging pad to go right here. And then in the back, you've got another USB and aux jack and a 12-volt outlet. But one of the things that really sets the RAV4 apart is the fact that you've got storage here. This is your storage shelf, just like last year, And it really just gives you the extra place to stick different small items and things that normally you don't have a place to put. Now Toyota was able to give you all of this storage while still sticking with a traditional shifter instead of an electronic one. So use of this is super simple. All you have to do is pull back for drive, then you can bump over to the left to shift manually like this. Now on the current crop of trims, there are no paddle shifters. However, I would expect that there will be once the XLE trim comes out later on in the year. When we go into reverse, you will see a standard backup camera up here, and then here on the Limited, you will have dynamic guidelines. Additionally, Limited has an option to get the advanced technology package, which includes the 360-degree bird's eye camera, and that includes the same perimeter scan feature as it did last year. And then off to the side of the shifter, you will find your electronic parking brake, which as you can see automatically engages when you put the vehicle into park, as well as your auto brake hold feature. Now backing up a little bit more, you'll find a console of buttons here that will look pretty unfamiliar if you have a previous generation RAV4. Now here on the Limited, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but we have the torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. So that gives us a bunch of different drive modes. So we got 3 drive modes as well as different modes for the all-wheel drive system. You've got mud and sand, dirt and rock, and different things like that, as well as a hill descent control and a dedicated snow mode. Now moving up here to the climate controls. These are dual zone automatic, and this comes standard on every trim except the LE where they're manual. I really like this setup. It's so ergonomically sound. You've got just 2 big giant controls for your temperature, and then everything else is represented by physical controls down here, so you don't have to bounce in between like physical buttons and then digital buttons up in the display or anything like that. Additionally, you will find 2 stage heated seats standard on only the Limited, though they are optional on the XLE trims. And then additionally on the Limited, you can get that aforementioned weather package, and that will also throw in ventilation. Alrighty, so now that brings us up to our model's optional 11-speaker JBL Premium audio system. So let's go ahead and take a sample. This sound system has excellent sound quality, and it really fills the cabin up. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the new Entune 3.0 system, which is new to the RAV4. So like I just said, this is the Entune 3.0 system, where the previous generation had the older version. And this does give you all the new graphics and new features. On this particular model, this is paired with the 8-inch display, and we do have shortcut buttons as well as physical tune and power buttons. Now looking at your home screen, this is reconfigurable, and you can just click on any of these sections to expand them. So clicking into the audio, I can play and pause straight from here. And then I can also click the source button to change between all my available sources, including applications like Slacker and Pandora. Now only the Limited comes standard with dynamic navigation. So this is Toyota's newest system. It does update automatically for several years. And as you can see, the graphics are very nice and everything is very responsive. Now, if you don't have the integrated navigation system, Toyota has now made Apple CarPlay standard across all of the trims. Android Auto is still not available, however it will probably become available as an update in a year or 2. And then real quick, the last thing I want to look at is your Wi-Fi hotspot. This is newly standard across all the trims, even the LE. And you get 2 gigabytes in 6 months to try it out. It is powered by Verizon, and then after that you could add it to your bill and pay extra for it. But anyways, that's a real quick summary of the Entune 3.0 system. However, we do have a really detailed tech help video available for those of you who want to learn more. Link to that video is provided in the description. Now, another really cool tech feature that the RAV4 has got is this rear view mirror. Now, it looks like your normal mirror, but as we've seen in some other brands recently, if you flip that switch, then all of a sudden we now have a rear camera mirror. So as you can see, basically all this does is cut out all the obstructions in the back and give you a really clear view of what's behind you. And this is the first Toyota product to have a feature like this. And additionally, it does also come with your HomeLink universal remotes. Now moving on up here to the moonroof, Toyota nicely includes this standard on all but the very base LE model. As you can see, this particular one is the standard size unit. However, on the Limited, we could get an optional panoramic one if we wanted it. But overall, it's hard to say enough nice things about the cabin of the new RAV4. This is not just a nice looking cabin, but also one that is extremely ergonomically sound and very high tech. I'd honestly say this has got to be one of the best cabins in the class. But anyways, now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason, who will show off all the important stuff in the back areas.
Alright, so looking in the back of the all-new 2019 Toyota RAV4, you're going to find a class-competitive amount of space. You'll find 37.8 inches of rear legroom and 39.5 inches of rear headroom. That does place it below the Honda CR-V, but it's right on par with the Nissan Rogue. And turning over here to the door trim, it is really nicely appointed, because you do have leather trim all the way through here, and it does even have a stitching material on the top. Just so you do have a silver door handle, and your rear windows are auto up and down. And down below that, you do have a bottle holder. Now the seat itself is a very soft design, it's very comfortable, and it does also have a nice stitching detail. Now in the middle of the all-new RAV4, you're going to find a lot of nice features. So you will find vents on all but the very base LE, and in addition to that, you will also find these 2 charging USB ports on all but the very base model. Also, we do have an option of heated rear seats on the Limited trim, although we do not have that option. In addition to that, we do have an armrest. It is nicely sized, and it does have 2 cup holders in the end. Now up top, we do have some lighting. The headliner is an upgrade over last year, and you do also have an assist grip and coat hook. Now, like I said, this car is class competitive when it comes to space, and that shows behind Drew's seating position. I have probably 6 to 8 inches of rear leg room, and my feet can easily slide up under the seat. And scooting over, even with the seat scooted all the way back, I still have several inches of rear leg room, and my feet are, once again, very happy up under the seat. Overall, I really like the all-new RAV4's rear seat. It serves its purpose really well for hauling around family members, since it's very spacious and comfortable, and you can even have a lot of luxury amenities. Now the seats themselves do fold 60-40 split, so just grab this handle and it will fold right down. Now the tailgate on the RAV4 is power on the XLE Premium and Limited, and it's optionally hands-free on the Limited trim. So to open it, just grab this button under the lid, or use your foot if you have the hands-free option. Now inside the cargo department of the RAV4, you are going to find a slight reduction from the outgoing model. It's rated at 37.5 cubic feet behind the second row seats, expanding to 70 cubic feet with them folded. That does also make it less than the Honda CR-V and Nissan Rogue. However, it is really nicely appointed back here. You do have a cargo cover, it does extend out, and you do also have some lighting. Now down below the floor, you will find a spare tire, and overall it's very nicely appointed rear trunk. We will talk about the pricing here in a minute. The passenger seat is that same beautiful design, and it is also manually adjusting even on this Limited trim. Now in front of the passenger we do have really nice materials. So you have a padded dashboard with the stitching detail, as well as a little storage area in front of the passenger, and down below that you do have a good sized glove box. Now up top we do have a sun visor with a mirror and light, and it can also detach, and it does have an extension in the end. Well guys, that pretty much wraps up all I have to talk about up here. So now let's go ahead and look at the powertrain and do a quick test drive.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the powertrain. Now, it's very simple. You continue to just have one option for now, because the hybrid will not be available until March. But for now, you're going to get a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine, and that now makes 203 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, which of course is more than last year. Additionally, the 6-speed automatic has now been replaced with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and front-wheel drive is standard across all of the trims. However, there are 2 optional all-wheel drive systems. So on the LE through the XLE Premium, you're going to have an optional traditional all-wheel drive system. However, on the Limited and eventually the Adventure trim, once that makes it out, you're going to have the segment first torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. Now what's special about that is that it can send 50% of the power to the rear wheels and then further distribute which rear wheel gets the power left to right. That of course is something usually reserved for more expensive vehicles. And finally we have the fuel economy, which is also very competitive. So for your front wheel drive models, it's going to be 26 city, 35 highway, 30 combined. And then if you choose all-wheel drive, you're going to lose 2 mpg combined. So it's going to be 25 city, 33 highway, 28 combined. But anyways, that pretty much sums up the powertrain. So let's go ahead and go for a quick test drive. So getting up to speed in the all-new RAV4, power feels pretty good. You know, this is the base engine. This is what the vast majority of people will get, and power feels pretty good. It gets up to speed nicely. 203 horsepower is definitely above actually most in the class, and the 8-speed automatic is very responsive feeling right off the line.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot more of a traditional feel than the CR-V, where the CR-V and a lot of the rivals do have CVTs, so that kind of sets the RAV4 apart, that it has the traditional transmission, and it's definitely the option that I prefer coming from my more traditional type of standpoint, because it makes it feel a lot more powerful.
Now I want to go ahead and talk about the steering, because I'm really impressed. When I get in a compact crossover, I'm pretty much expecting, I don't know if I want to say to be disappointed, but I'm not expecting much, let's just say. It's usually extremely disconnected, you know, light. This steering feels really good. First of all, it's extremely fast, but it really corresponds with where the wheel is. Like, I can actually tell the placement of the vehicle. It is heavier than I expect as well. Now we've got some drive modes here. I'm gonna put it in sport mode and see if that makes any difference. I imagine not, but we'll go ahead and give it a try. The gauges did turn red, so that is a good indication of what mode you're in. I couldn't really tell much of a difference. The steering actually might be a little bit tighter, a little bit heavier, and the throttle
I think it might hold the gears a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Let's see, as far as your other important stuff, definitely your ride quality is very important, and this feels extremely comfortable.
You know, in a car like this is a family hauling vehicle. You know, these compact crossovers have really replaced the midsize sedan in terms of hauling your family around. So this is a family-oriented vehicle, and it's supposed to be comfortable, and the RAV4 definitely is. Just going through a couple bumps here in the road and in the parking lot, you can just tell it's dampened very smoothly, and it's just a very comfortable car. The seats are comfortable, and it's very quiet inside the cabin as well.
Now we have no place to really sample out this new torque vectoring all-wheel drive system, but of course, like I had just mentioned, talking about the powertrain, this is class exclusive, and it's something you really don't expect to see in a vehicle in this class. Definitely usually reserved for more expensive vehicles, so it's nice for Toyota to include that. I don't know if people are gonna go off-road per se, but it also helps you with stability and bad weather and stuff like that, so just always an extra feature to have is good. Nice and tight turning diameter. Surprisingly agile. It's definitely that Toyota's new chassis. Yeah. All of their new models have that sporty feel that they previously didn't. So
has a splash of Camry
right.
in it.
Yeah.
But overall, we're really impressed with the all-new RAV4. It really kind of injected like a sporty feel into the car that a lot of the rivals don't have. So if you're coming from a previous gen RAV4, or maybe even a Camry, I think you're going to be really impressed with the new RAV4 because it drives nice, it's nice and comfortable, and it really is a great hauling family car. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks at the 2019 Toyota RAV4 Limited. Stay watching for a quick look at the pricing, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons below. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.